Hello, and thank you so much for coming to watch this video on our full moon in Taurus. My name is Alejandra. This is Wildflowers Within on YouTube. I have my little marigold here because I wanted to talk a little bit about Day of the Dead and Día de Muertos as we are speaking about the Taurus-Scorpio axis. And before I get into the video, I just wanted to let you know that if you are a woman who is looking to connect deeper to lunar wisdom, if you're looking for sisterhood and community, if you're looking to use the power of your breath for manifestation and intention setting, I invite you to join me in the Lunar Alchemy Circle. I give online breathworks every new moon and full moon. We come together as a beautiful tribe of women and for co-creation and for really allowing the divine feminine wisdom to come back into our bodies and to be consciously aware of it. And the rhythm of the moon is one of the best ways I've found to be able to start attracting that into my life. So I offer that to you. All right, let's get into it. I wanted to start by, before speaking about the full moon in Taurus, to talk about Día de Muertos and how this has such beautiful symbolism for the sun right now that is transiting Scorpio and the full moon that we are getting in Taurus. So I wrote down a few themes that you can start to be looking for in your life. And then mirror, obviously, look where Taurus is sitting, Taurus Scorpio axis is within your natal chart to see what topics are being activated at this time. So the first one is, I'm Mexican. Actually, I should say this. That's why I want to talk about it. It's my heritage. And, it's been in the family tradition for years to be able to honor our ancestors and honor our loved ones who have crossed and who are no longer with us. And this theme of Dia de Muertos as seeing the cycle of life and death is something that is very present in the astrology of the moment. I don't think it's a coincidence that Dia de Muertos happens during this time and season. So Day of the Dead traditions are rooted in indigenous beliefs that I view death as a continuation of life. Thank God for my Mexican culture that has taught me that from a really young age. And it doesn't mean that when someone crosses, I don't feel sadness or I don't feel pain. Of course I do. And at the same time, with time, it is always something to be celebrated when we see the cycle of life and death taking place. So it's something that's not really feared. We try our best not to fear it or mourn it, or maybe a better way of saying that is to get stuck in just the mourning, right? The mourning of the loss of the loved ones. And so this is similar to this Taurus Scorpio axis because it deals with the natural cycles of creation. Creation we see in this fertile, earthy Venusian temple, right? Where you've got just the leaves and the flowers keep blossoming, right? And the sun is like perpetual sunlight and things are just fertile and they keep growing and growing and growing, right? It's that scene in The Lion King where they're holding up Simba and it's like, Simba, wow, I just pulled that out of nowhere. That was not meant to, that wasn't going to say that. Um, I lost my train of thought. Hold on. Lion King. Yes, Lion King. That moment saying a new era has dawned upon this land, right? And then you have destruction in the Temple of Scorpio, right? The darkness, the death that leads to transformation. And so Dia de Muertos is this beautiful balance between life and death, but at the same time, a constant honoring of the cycle that is going back and forth. So use this as the sun is in Scorpio and the moon is in Taurus to think about what house topics are being activated and use that at this time. Another beautiful symbolism of Day of the Dead is it is that connection between the physical and the spiritual. We do Day of the Dead as a ritual, and it is intentionally designed to welcome the spirits of the deceased back into our homes, back into the physical realm for a brief reunion with the living, right? And we bridge this gap between the spiritual and material planes. I was actually watching a documentary on, I forget what program it was. It was on TV somewhere, and they were in Oaxaca speaking about the Day of the Dead traditions. And every place, every state within Mexico might vary slightly, but in this particular place in Mexico, at 3 p.m. on Day of the Dead, they open the doors for their ancestors to walk in. So this year, when I saw that, I was like, oh my gosh, we have to do this. So at 3 p.m., we opened the doors and I turned on some music, and it was, some Latino song of like dancing and happiness. And we just started partying and grooving. And it's our tradition, right? It's a tradition to welcome the spiritual back onto this physical plane and saying, we're here for you. This is a space. We've lit candles so you can land your energetic presence here. We open the door so you can walk into our homes. So Taurus and Scorpio also symbolize the balance between the physical world, right? That's Taurus and the earthiness and the body, and the spiritual metaphysical world that Scorpio has with going into the depths of the unknown. We do not know what is behind the veil. That is Scorpio. That is, we'll find out later. But all of that, coming together. And it's really funny. I know they physically can manipulate stuff in our physical plane. Spiritually, they can manipulate stuff. And I saw it in one of the statues. I had placed a rosary, actually one of these, I had placed the rosary on the head of this beautiful grandmother statue. And I do it in such a way where it creates like this band, and then it comes down and it hangs, and it's super gorgeous. When I went to sleep, it was up on her head. And this is a statue, like nothing ever moves, right? It's very normal to wake up the next day and the statue looks exactly the same. I woke up on Dia de Muertos and I looked at the statue, and it had completely, perfectly fallen into the lap of the grandmother. Now, my abuelita on my dad's side, my Bita, prayed the rosary every day. She's the one who I saw the connection and the symbolism of how important the rosary can be in terms of our devotion to our faith. And I was like, oh my gosh, my grandmother literally prayed the rosary and dropped it on the lap of the grandma statue so that I would see it. So it's like, it is so cool when the spiritual world meets the physical plane and magic can happen. And I just, yeah. And then of course I like announced it to my entire family, like a broadcast text that went out, and everybody believes it because we know that there's power there. Okay. All right. Another thing that Dia de Muertos does is we honor the past for future growth, right? We honor the prayers of our ancestors so that we are able to fully live out a full, like abundant life, right? So in both contexts, there's an emphasis on acknowledging and integrating the past. With Dia de Muertos, it involves creating altars, beautiful altars. And we bring ofrendas, we bring offerings which are like photos, food, personal belongings to honor our ancestors, ensuring that their legacy is not forgotten. I just saw the movie Coco recently, and Mama Emelia and like her family, they were all shoemakers. And so with all the tios and the tias, they would have the particular shoe that they made, in this world, and they'd place it there. And I just thought it was really, really cute. And so the Scorpio Taurus axis suggests that, reaching into this metaphoric death, right? Scorpio is letting go of the old. It allows for this grounded new growth and stability that Taurus provides so that we can come on the physical plane for physical manifestation. Another theme that is huge in Dia de Muertos and along Scorpio and Taurus is transformation and rebirth. the core of Scorpio's archetype, right? This is the feminine water temple of Mars. I know modern astrologers give Pluto, the planetary dominance domain of this temple. I don't particularly do that, but I can see the similarities and I understand why. For me, it's Mars's feminine temple. But this Scorpio is an archetype. The reason Pluto can be associated is because Scorpio can transform and shed old layers, right? Scorpio can be this snake-like shedding skin, or it could be more Plutonian, like the phoenix that rises from the ashes, right? This mirrors Day of the Dead's use of symbolism with our skeletons and our skulls, the calaveras, like the sugar skulls you can see. People paint literally their faces like skulls. We hold the death and rebirth here, the transformation. And it's that what remains after death and the promise of rebirth, right? It's all treated with this like black humor. We see it as a friendly nod to death. We can joke about it. And, that kind of happened. So we celebrate as a family and we're all at the dinner table. And I don't know, the food was amazing. Like it was just so good. And I was laughing because I had this like really dark humor moment, but I meant it. I basically looked at my mother and I said, I hear the irony as I'm saying this, but I want my last meal on earth to be this. It's that good. And then I had like a little dance that I would do for it. And my dad was looking at me kind of crazy. And I was like, you got to do the dance. It's so good. So we joke. We can joke about death and have this black humor. Because we always know there is transformation and rebirth waiting for us on the other side. Another thing that is prominent is values and resources. That the celebration relates to a theme of like values and possessions. Taurus is, our personal tangible assets, like, the shoes in the movie Coco, or, the rosary. We had a photo of my grandma, but I also put this rosary because I know she prayed it every single day. And we put the food, even the dinner that we had on Dia de Muertos, on Day of the Dead, we put some of that dinner onto the altar. And Scorpio also has its own riches and its own treasures in that access, but those are buried deeper down. They're not like the gems that you can see from gorgeous plants blossoming and flowering at the time, or I don't know, babies being born, or just the abundance of fertility. Scorpio has that same discovery waiting for us within that temple, but they are deeper. We have to go into the dark to find those treasures. These are our natural talents or our innate power. And the way we find them could be through incredible diversity. It could be found through deep trauma, right? Once we transcend it, once we go in to hold it and to bring it up into the light for healing, we can tap in to a place within us, within a resource within ourselves that is like, wow, so beautiful. So beautiful, just as stunning as, looking at some epic sunset in the most jungle, beautiful, abundant place on earth, right? Just like a Taurus temple, finding those treasures within the depths of the darkness, right? Or seeing our ancestors from the past. And yes, they're crossed over, but there could be such beauty in the journey of what they had. So Day of the Dead, it involves these physical offerings and an investment of time and love to honor their legacy, right? Honor the treasure of that cultural tradition. And I just love it. I think it's such a beautiful lens to be able to understand the interconnectedness, the loop of existence, that when one phase occurs, it goes through an evolution and then it eventually dies to be regenerated and reborn. So I offer that to really allow you, ground yourself. If you look at Dia de Muertos and you see, what does Taurus feel like versus Scorpio? Just hold Day of the Dead in the center as the prayer. If you've ever seen beautiful images of Day of the Dead celebrated in Mexico, it is one of the most gorgeous, dark gardens, like gardens of dark love, dark beauty that you will ever find. Loved ones all around, marigolds galore, the colors, right? It's like Taurus present with Scorpio held at the same time. So something like that is taking place now with this full moon happening. The house of Taurus is, one of riches and opulence. It is Venus when in the northern hemisphere, the light is now sovereign, right? Aries has broken through with the light, initiated us into the season of light. And when with Taurus, the light is just constant. The light is just growing. And, I pulled I want to give an example of why the moon feels so good here, and I'll just share a quick story. I recently pulled, I do horary astrology. I got trained in it. And horary is such a weird word, right? Horary. See, I'll spell it so you could see it. And it's basically to cast the chart for the birth of a question. So we normally know of chart casting for the day we're born. Well, this is a chart casting for I'm going to ask a question and birth it right now into the universe. And the theory is if a question has been asked, the answer already exists. And so we go to the oracle to help us solve the riddle. And there's so many layers. Oh my God, it's so hard. I think of like the movie Beetlejuice, where it's like the manual for the dead. What is it? The manual for the recently deceased, with like all the instructions. And you're like, what the heck? That's a horary book, like getting trained in it. There's so many rules. But anyway, I asked a question because I wasn't sure. I had two different spiritual works I could have gone to. And I was debating, how am I going to feel at this one versus how I'm going to feel at this one? And the one that I decided to go to is a chart that said, I'm going to feel like the moon in Taurus. And I was like, whoa, that feels good. So why do I say all these things? Okay. So Taurus is a fixed earth sign. It is incredibly stable. Just as, Scorpio is also a fixed sign. So these temples are not open to dramatic changes innately. They are very comfortable at being who they are. And with Taurus, what this does is it gives the moon a stable, fertile place of nourishment. And the moon is constantly fluctuating and constantly changing. So when you give it just a supportive environment, feeling nothing but Venusian love, I mean, you're going to be doing really well. The moon is exalted in Taurus, meaning that it is the most favorite VIP guest ever. Okay. The goddess, Venus, worships the luminary that represents the divine feminine. Kind of makes sense, And just like Cancer exalts Jupiter, right? It exalts the masculine, the divine mother exalts her counterpart. So, it seeks the moon can seek this comfort and beauty and abundance in a stable home. And that's exactly how I felt during this spiritual work. It was like the community held me, the work held me. I got the best messages and insights. Like it was so cool to cast the chart and kind of have a theory of what I'd feel like. And then being in the experience of, oh my God, this is awesome. Like if every spiritual work could be like this, it'd be amazing. So the moon is feeling really good right now, and something big is coming. Now, there is shadow. The full moon always brings out the shadow. And a shadow with Taurus energy because it is a fixed sign, it can stay stuck. that it's kind of like you can get stuck in excess, within like too much comfort, which essentially makes you lazy, right? If you don't need to lift a finger, kind of think of like a, I don't know, a trust fund kid. No offense. No offense. I'm just using you as an archetype. But, if they're just comfy and cushiony, are they really going to welcome challenges or changes into their life? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. But there is an inertia, right, in a fixed sign that prevents us from moving forward. So I wanted to just say that can come up. And with the sun transiting Scorpio, I already said in the last, I think one of the last videos I was making is a lot of truth is coming to the surface. A huge amount of truth is up for illumination, because as the sun is shining its light within this dark, watery, feminine temple, we cannot help but find those gems. And some stuff that comes out is not going to be comfortable. Scorpio, the sun in Scorpio is dealing with issues like taboo or stuff that we've hidden away from and haven't really wanted us to see. And the sun's there just saying, nope. And, the full moon, the tension of illumination that is being held right now, where, it could be big for a lot of people on both sides, a really good one and a tough one. So just sending my prayers to people wherever you find yourself on the spectrum. I wanted to share a little bit about a couple of aspects that are taking place for this lunation. And they're pretty big. I created for the Lunar Alchemy Circle, it was a private video months ago when Uranus entered Gemini. And I was, exploring those themes of, a revolution of the mind taking place, of your own philosophy, of, just in the collective of technology, of AI, coming in. And also with Pluto and Aquarius, also bringing that more air, right? The air, the communication, the different channels of communication that are going to be available to us. And Uranus right now is retrograde. It's about to re-enter the temple of Taurus. It's about to give its last shakeup for anything in Taurus that still didn't get demolished, or like one little thing stayed and we have to just unscrew that last bolt to be able to make those permanent changes that Uranus was there to like really bring a revolution to. Well, Uranus is just about to leave Gemini. And as it's doing this during this full moon, we have Mars just entering Sagittarius, very close to Mercury, and opposing Uranus from Sagittarius. So what does this mean? Anytime that a planet is going into retrograde, you can look at it as a way that the energy is telling you, let's do a review. Let's do a revision of things that have already started to change within us. And so you think about personal philosophies. You look where Gemini sits in the chart. And Uranus is there again to speed things up, right? You put a planet like Uranus in an air sign, Mercury ruled air sign. It's the magician in the laboratory, like all of a sudden it's just like, experimenting. Well, now we're asked, look at all the changes we've started to see within that temple. And how does that stand in opposition for us to want to take a massive step and leap forward into adventure, into the unknown? Mars opposite Uranus can bring sudden breakups in big ways. These could be relationships, it could be business partnerships, it could be, communications, or maybe internally, like a very surprise wake-up call that you did not expect. Something around this time could reveal itself that's quite shocking. So you might want to look out for news that comes just sort of out of the blue. But maybe, the shock can be good or the shock could be bad. You're going to have to decipher where you sit on the spectrum, right? But it's doing it or maybe you take shocking action that you didn't expect to take. The reason the news is coming is truly for liberation. It is to liberate yourself in some way. And thankfully, or maybe overwhelmingly, we are in a period of grand water trines that are coming in like massive waves of just water. That, we have an exalted Jupiter in Cancer. During this full moon, it will be trining a retrograde Saturn in Pisces. And pretty soon, within 2 weeks, we'll have the sun coming through Scorpio and then hitting a grand water trine, all three of them. So what does this mean? Jupiter is here to bring blessings, but Jupiter may bring it in expansion that is overwhelming. And it's going to take a stable full moon, wherever Taurus sits in our chart, to really center ourselves and become present and not get lost in some sort of undertow. So if there are big shifts taking place right now, if you find yourself in, let's call it a watershed moment, or there's, and I could see people kind of like trying to tread and just getting, going under and maybe even panicking a little bit, going under and feeling all of this water coming in, it could be a moment of purification for you. And it could be a purification that's welcoming. It's going to feel like a baptism, like, okay, I'm just going to do it. Or it could be, oh my God, what's happening? So I don't know. I would say tread these waters with devotion. Saturn coming back into Pisces is here one last time to lay some sort of spiritual foundation, some sort of, it feels like from Cancer to, Pisces, the two of them trining, which is a very harmonious aspect, is some sort of manifestation portal ability is being open for you at this time. So even if luck doesn't feel like it's going your way, Jupiter in Cancer, I've actually read a few charts where people have Jupiter in Cancer in the finances, on like the 2nd and 8th, and debt is growing. But at the same time, other resources coming in to figure out how to pay for it are also flooding in. So it's a very overwhelming time. And right now, the full moon is asking us to be stable, right? To be within our earthly temple, our earthly body, and understand that Scorpio and Taurus, right? There are a cycle of life and death is taking place right now. How are we going to devotionally tend to our garden as these themes take place, right? Where is the connection between the physical and the spiritual to help us ground? Where is the honoring of something in the past for our future growth? Where are we being asked to transform and rebirth ourselves? And what external value and resources, or it could be internal value and resources, are changing at this time to break us open, to bring us into a brand new cycle. We have a very dignified Venus in Libra ruling this Taurus moon. So she's there to send blessings. She's there thinking about justice, thinking about harmony. And, Saturn's in her temple at Pisces, right? They've got this like psychic connection right now. And they're both there to help each other out. So I hope that helps when you think about what this full moon is going to bring for you. I always honor full moons. It's a harvesting moment. Something is crystallizing at this time for you to see. And whether it is a beautiful blessing or a daunting, road ahead, just know either one are here to initiate you into a higher, better, newer version of yourself. So I hope that supports. And again, if you want to come to breathe with me and the women in the Lunar Alchemy Circle, I invite you to come to our breathworks. The links are below. And I'll be making a different video talking about the Liberated Survivor Ceremony that's taking place on November 14th and 15th. It's to support anyone who's any woman who's ever gone through sexual trauma, sexual assault. And I've created a ceremony to liberate her from any feeling of guilt and shame that may still be trapped in the body, no matter how long ago it happened. As the sun is transiting Scorpio, I have been receiving the most beautiful teachings from Spirit to create and curate this ceremony to really bring healing to our world, to bring healing to the Taurian, existence that we find ourselves in life by going deep into the dark places. So I'm very excited. This is a big full moon for me. I feel it very much. I'll just share that Taurus is my 12th house of self-sabotage, the way that we get, the way that we can undermine ourselves or that others can undermine us. And the 6th house is sacrifice and hard work. I'm being asked to chop wood and carry water. And these grand trines are just coming in, but it's like a portal of rebirth is really from the womb, of our cosmic mother is happening. So as big and daunting of a challenge that is for me, I really think that something beautiful is birthing at this time. So I don't know what that is for you, dear souls, but I send you love and blessings and happy full moon in Taurus. Take care. Ciao.